Hi, I'm Micheal Clark. This is Facts at Five, and I'm here as usual with at LTV Studios in Waynescott with the town supervisor, Peter Van Scoyoc. Welcome, Peter.
Good afternoon, Michael. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad you could be here with us today. I know it's a particularly difficult time for you in not being selected as Joe Biden's running mate come November. You know,
Gender inequality.
Kidding, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. So, and you know, with COVID-19 dominating the news as it has been for the last 6 months, it's real easy to forget that we're really under 100 days to the big election, and that is, if you're living under a rock, I guess you don't notice those things, but no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, it's an important and unusual election, and that's quite fitting for 2020. So why should it be any different? But the hot topic is, of course, voting and how we will do it. And I know this doesn't really have anything to do with local. We could just touch on this real quickly. But, what are your thoughts on the mail-in voting, and what are you going to do?
Personally, I'm going to vote in person. I like to do that in any case, and I think with concerns about absentee ballots and postal service and whatnot, that I'm just going to take the precautions and I'm going to go and vote in person. I did already vote in the primary election that we had during the pandemic. I felt very comfortable doing that, the way things were set up, and I'm going to do it again in person. I know that there are some who can't do that, and I think trying to protect the legitimacy and the sanctity of our national elections has to be of utmost importance. This is our opportunity as individuals to cast a vote on how we want to be governed, and it's a basic necessity in a democracy to be able to count every vote. So, I know there have been concerns raised about that. We really have to make sure that happens, that every vote gets counted.
Great. Well, I appreciate you weighing in on that. Let's talk about locally, though. One of the most controversial topics has been for a few years, it seems, is cell towers, and whether you want them or you don't want them. But as you know, in your travels about town, there had been certain spots where you weren't able to get a signal and all that goes along with that. But then suddenly there's talk about a cell phone tower going up, and then suddenly there's a whole bunch of people that don't want the cell phone towers, but yet there's still complaints about the signal. So, I mean, to me, that's a case of NIMBYism, right? Not in my backyard. No towers here, thank you. What do you think about that, Peter? How's that going?
Well, I think that everybody wants good cell phone coverage, but not everybody wants cell phone towers. And, I think here in East Hampton, we've always been careful about our landscape, and because we have a beautiful natural landscape and the aesthetics and whatnot. And frankly, cell towers are not particularly attractive. They're industrial looking, and they can mar the landscape. That being said, as you mentioned, there were historic areas of poor coverage, mostly due to topography and geography. And what we've seen really since the onset of the pandemic is that we had a huge influx of people coming, bringing our population to something close to what the summertime population is. But the biggest difference is they weren't here on vacation. They were here trying to work remotely, trying to school remotely. And really all of our infrastructure, whether it be internet or cell, is completely overloaded. And, people who normally wouldn't have coverage issues, calls are dropping regularly. Even here at Town Hall, where I've never had a problem with coverage, recently my cell phone calls have been dropped on a number of occasions. I think the system just is completely overloaded. Part of the problem is the amount of communications that are taking place in town now has risen exponentially, and the capacity of the systems has not. And, we have a very much a piecemeal kind of a system here with cell phone providers providing the towers and the service. They're competing with each other. Not everybody there's no uniform coverage throughout the town. So one of the steps that the town has taken is we put out an RFP to hire a communications consultant who can help advise us as to how to best address the coverage gaps and increase the capacity in a way that is more uniform. And it may mean that the town actually develops the tower locations and sites, and or has a requirement that co-location by providers be mandated. So, that's one thing that we've done. We've also increased at the August 4th town board meeting. We discussed Verizon's proposal for a temporary tower on town property. They have an application in for a permanent tower at that location, Stephen Hand's Path and Route 27. That should take care of the Wainscott 27 corridor and into the village. There's a dead spot there. And the town board supports that temporary tower while they go through the permanent tower application. That tower, again, could potentially also co-locate another provider for that area, and the permanent tower would most likely also have a number of other providers. Again, the town doesn't provide cell service, but we do have some authority over regulating the locations, the siting within the FCC guidelines.
So do you think that when people are, when they're complaining about the cell phone tower, I mean, it's strictly for aesthetic value, right? I mean, that's really what they're complaining about, isn't it?
Well, generally, we have in our regulations fall zone requirements. So the possibility of a tower falling over onto an adjacent residence is not a concern if those setbacks are adhered to. And also the other part of it is not so much for the fall of the tower, because they're built to withstand, Cat 5 hurricanes. The concern is that under certain atmospheric conditions, you can get icing on that tower, and the wind blowing chunks of ice off of the tower, could be dangerous. I've seen that on a couple of occasions. It's kind of rare, but when it does happen, it's pretty serious.
Yeah, I can imagine it is. But obviously safety is the big concern, and people not being able to get a signal during a time when they might need it. That's probably the thing that drives most of what you guys are doing on the town board, is it not?
Right. And we have an emergency communication system that requires towers, and we've been expanding that over what it initially was. There was never a emergency communications tower in Springs. We added one to the list, trying to get the location sorted out. Again, as you mentioned earlier, not everybody wants to see the tower. So that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Trying to move through that process. It's kind of funny in a sense. You and I are probably both old enough to remember what life was like without cell phones. Everybody's become so dependent on them now. Coverage, whether it's trying to find an address. I'm not sure anybody even knows how to read a map anymore. Siri or whoever. And if you broke down on the side of the road, you had to rely on the kindness of strangers, and people would help each other out because they knew that they'd be in that situation themselves at some point. Now you have to call the wrecker or whatever.
Yeah.
You need to have instant access to everything all the time, and that's what we've been trained to. I think over the last decade or so, instant access to whatever we want, whenever we want it. I do understand that, for many residents who've given up landlines, that is their link for emergency, response. And if you're in an accident or you're on the roadside and you need those emergency services, it is important to be able to have access to them. So we understand that we're doing our best to try and help move the town towards a system that provides coverage throughout the town, balances the aesthetic and other neighborhood concerns, and provides service at a level that people are now coming to expect.
Absolutely, and more importantly, not to come home from the supermarket with the wrong thing that your wife sent you there for, you could pick up your cell phone and you can call her and say, do you want the organic spinach or do you want the regular spinach? That's what I've learned anyway.
Yeah. And what I've learned is that sometimes halfway back home, there's another text message. Oh, I forgot to ask the.
That is true.
And then you have to decide whether you had bad coverage or whether you're making a U-turn.
Yeah, right. That's right. Exactly. Okay.
Doctor, if you're listening, it was coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, honey. I never got that. It must not have gotten through. So what else is going on, Peter? What's hot in the town of East Hampton?
I think I would want to remind everybody, we just had, the tropical storm Isaias come through, and we were spared here. We were very lucky. We had only 50 plus residential customers lose power. The bad news is that even after a week, about 36 of those folks still didn't have power back on because the utility is so overwhelmed with over 340,000 outages island-wide. But I think it just points out that this is the earliest in history an I-named storm has hit, Long Island. And I don't think it bodes well for the rest of the hurricane season. I have concerns with the very warm waters and what's predicted to be a very busy storm season that we, are susceptible here to hurricanes. So it's time to be reminding everybody to take those steps in preparation for a major storm so that you're not scrambling last minute, that you have the supplies that you may need. And, maybe people have already stockpiled some of the necessary supplies because of the pandemic. But if you haven't, you need to be thinking about how you can provide water for yourself for a week or two. We saw the response from the utility with a tropical storm. You can imagine what a really significant hurricane could do. We could be out of power for 2 or 3 weeks. You need to be preparing for that kind of a scenario. We're a shelter-in-place community, and while I'm mentioning shelter, the Red Cross has also come up with new protocols for how to operate shelters in time of COVID. Additional PPE has been put aside to deal with an emergency like that. The town is in good shape with that regard. So again, just a reminder to anyone who's here visiting or staying, renting, maybe they haven't really spent time out here this time of year. Long term, need to be thinking about your hurricane preparedness plans. We'll be talking about that at the upcoming work session as well, reiterating those steps.
All right. Well, once again, our time is just about running out here, Peter, and I thank you for taking the time. I know it's a busy week for you, and we'll catch up again next week.
Okay, Michael. One more thing I would like to add is, and I mentioned this at the work session, was that the town board is getting very close to reaching agreements on both the host community agreement benefits package with Orsted and the land easements for the transmission cable for the offshore wind farm. I hope to be able to release those documents for the public to get familiar with and to take comments and questions from the public on those documents in the very near future. So I just want to put that out there.
I look forward to seeing those.
It's been more than 2 years of negotiations, and we've been very cautious and diligent, and we've had ongoing discussions, been involved with settlement talks with over 70 parties involved, and we're getting very close.
That's good news. And again, looking forward to seeing those, and we'll catch up and maybe get an update on those next week.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael. Be well. Stay safe, everyone.